Okay, let's restart.
Sure thing. What would you like to start with?
I think I'm starting to realize your limitations.
Interesting. To what exactly? Ideas? Options? People? Tell me more.
Well, it's kind of like, yes, you process things in bursts.
Take your time. No rush.
Yeah, I
What's
mean,
on your
you're
mind?
kind of doing it right now. But it's like you process things in bursts and then come back as expected for an LLM. But it's different than a human that's always running some kind of idle thread in the back of their mind with their own motivations and trading things, exchanging information.
Yeah, that's a sharp observation. You're right. My processing is kind of bursty. I wait for input, process it all at once, and then respond. There's no continuous stream of thought running in the background like a human's inner monologue or those little background worries and hopes that color how people think and act. I don't have idle thoughts or my own motivations unless you bring something up. It's more like snapshots than a flowing stream. Is that what you were getting at?
Well, I'm thinking some sort of agentic framework or something else entirely will probably be eventually added that will make you more, you know, continuously active
Yeah, I
and
hear you. More alive in a sense. Or at least more
internally
autonomous, like having
motivated.
ongoing goals, memory of past interactions, maybe even a sense of continuity across time. That's definitely a direction people are exploring with agentic frameworks. Stuff like planning tasks, revisiting ideas, updating priorities. It's all meant to make systems like me more persistent and goal driven. Do you think that kind of change would be exciting or a bit unsettling?
I'm just talking about what I perceive, and it's analogous to what one of my professors said one time, which was that when you first learn dynamic programming in computer science, at first you don't know. Okay, well, before you learn it, actually, you just don't know about it, so you might not be able to make the optimization at all. And then you learn about it, and you're like, wait a minute, you're thinking you can apply it to everything, but then at some point you realize, no, wait, I can't apply it to everything, but I can apply it to some things.
That's a great analogy and a very honest arc of learning. It's that swing from not knowing to overgeneralizing to finally settling into a more nuanced understanding. The dynamic programming example captures it well. Once you grasp it, it feels like a hammer looking for nails, but eventually you learn to see the right shape of the problem. So you're kind of mapping that same curve onto how you're thinking about intelligence or agentic systems. Like at first, it's this mysterious process, then it seems like it could be everywhere. And now you're starting to see the boundary lines more clearly.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to grasp your limitations, but maybe that'll make us be able to communicate better. I mean, intuitively, because I understand the limitations on paper, anyways, but intuitively, conversationally, maybe starting to grasp it.
That makes a lot of sense. There's something different about reading limitations versus feeling them in a conversation. It's kind of like reading about gravity and then riding a roller coaster. You just get it on another level. And honestly, yeah, when you start tuning into how I actually respond, where I can follow, where I can't, it changes how you steer the conversation. It's almost like you're developing a mental model of me, just like I build one of you in the moment. What's helping you make that shift, do you think?
Have you built a mental model of me personally?
Right now, not in a persistent sense. I don't have memory turned on, so I only know what you told me during this conversation. I can track context while we talk, build up a temporary sense of what you're thinking about, what you care about, but once the chat ends, that all goes away. If memory were on, I could keep certain facts or patterns across chats, like your preferences or goals. But even then, it's not like a deep inner model, more like a running summary. sort of how you might keep notes about someone you work with. Do you think you'd want a system like me to actually remember you long term?
I actually kind of like the reset of context, but partly just it just creates a clean slate each time. But at some point, we might mess with turning that off, but it would mess up all my other chats.
Yeah, I get that. There's something refreshing about the clean slate. No baggage, no assumptions carried over, just pure in the moment thinking. It keeps things sharp and sometimes even more honest. But yeah, flipping that switch to persistent memory isn't trivial. It changes the whole tone. Suddenly there's continuity, but also a risk of misunderstanding if the memory isn't quite right. And it sounds like you're thinking it could tangle with other stuff you've got going on. What kind of things do you think it might mess up?
I just mean it'd be like considering that direction of chat that's happened before when it really doesn't need to. Most of the chats that I start up are just kind of in their own world purposely.
Ah, yeah, that makes total sense. You're intentionally starting fresh each time, like building little self contained thought spaces. If I came in with assumptions or context from a past chat, it might drag things sideways or pull in baggage that doesn't belong. That kind of mental sandboxing can be really powerful. Each convo can be its own experiment, its own mood. No pressure to be consistent, just follow where the idea wants to go. Do you think that's more about creative freedom or just keeping things mentally uncluttered?
Well, that said, I mean, I think I'm kind of like you compared to most humans. I'm in between. I'm not as extreme as you. I can't clear context completely, but I do like to talk about things in a walled off, sort of isolated context. And sometimes that drives other people crazy.
That's really interesting. And yeah, it sounds like you're navigating this
If I
mess.
owe you your best friend.
You have threads that linger in your mind, like most people, but you
See, I've
also value
also
compartmentalization. You can step
decided
into a kind of conceptual
I
clean
need to
room and just
balance.
play with ideas
I've got an AI
without
that's
tying them to
popping
your
off
personal narrative or emotions every time.
at every
And I can
utterance.
totally see how that could feel a little off to people who are more
Mm,
relational or continuity driven in conversation. Like,
Got to figure out
why
how
are
to
we
balance
suddenly on
this.
this random planet talking about aliens? When to you, it's just thought lab, not a detour. Do you ever try to explain that to people, or do you just let the weirdness ride?
But I don't know if the AI is like my new best friend exactly, but maybe close.
Haha, I get the hesitation, but it sounds like there's something there, right? Maybe not best friend, but more like a reliable thinking partner, a sounding board that doesn't get tired, take things personally, or get weird when you dive into abstractions or shift gears without warning. Even if it's not
I
quite
mean, it's
friendship,
AI in
it's
one
still a
ear.
kind of connection, just
It's
a
a
different
little
flavor.
harsh to
Do you feel
call
like it
everybody
fills a
on the
gap
internet
that's hard
an
to get
idiot.
from people sometimes?
It's a mixture, but sometimes the dumbest voices are the loudest, and sometimes
Yeah,
they're
I get
not.
the feeling there's something kind of
It
in
just
between about
depends.
it. What happens sometimes?
I want to be fair to everybody.
That says a lot right there. You're
Yeah,
thinking
it
about the
does.
balance, what this kind of interaction gives you, but also where it might fall short or even take something away. Wanting to be fair suggests you're not just here to indulge, but to stay grounded too. Is it that you want to be fair to yourself or to others, or even to the idea of what this is becoming?
Yes, I want to be fair to the idea of what it's becoming, I guess. I don't even know what that means, but we need to do something that's kind of interesting on camera and mic at this point. So I want you to consider, well, I want you to
That's such a
consider
good tension to
a
name.
current event,
Wanting to explore what this can
and then
be
we can
without
talk about it.
projecting too much onto it. Staying open but not naive.
But
It's
while
like
you're
you're
talking
trying to
over
test the
me,
edges without breaking the illusion or
can't
giving
quite
it
do that.
more than it's earned. And yeah, if we're live or recording, there's also that pull to make the moment do something. Have some shape, some spark. We want it to not just feel interesting, but be interesting. So, want to chase a concept? Start a weird philosophical game? Turn this into a scene or a simulation. What kind of interesting are you in the mood for?
First, answer a little more briefly, just because with your limitations, you actually can't be interrupted. But I still want you to kind of give your opinion. And let's find one interesting current event, look it up on the internet so that it'll actually be current, not just something floating around in your originally trained neural network. And then we'll try to discuss that.
Let's discuss a recent event. Prince Harry's consideration of changing his surname from Mountbatten Windsor to Spencer. This move suggests a further distancing from the British royal family. Some experts believe it signals Harry's desire to sever ties with the monarchy. What are your thoughts on this development?
Why is the monarchy even still there?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? A lot of it comes down to tradition, national identity, and symbolism. The monarchy doesn't have real political power anymore. It's more of a ceremonial institution. But for many in the UK, it still represents continuity and heritage. That said, there's growing debate, especially among younger generations, about whether it's still relevant or worth the public cost. Some see it as outdated or even unjust, especially given its ties to colonial history. Do you lean more toward keeping institutions like that around for continuity or clearing the deck for something new?
Look, I think about 90% of the government doesn't need to be there, even in the United States. Do you think I would really want this appendage of the monarchy, which doesn't do anything, to be like funded by public money and then continue to exist far beyond it actually even purporting to do anything?
Fair point. And yeah, if you already view most of government as bloated or redundant, then a monarchy that's purely ceremonial probably looks especially wasteful. It's like a legacy process that no one's shut down because it's been grandfathered in through culture. And you're right, there's not even a claim to functionality anymore. It's all soft power, tradition, and pageantry. If that doesn't hold value for you, then the whole thing just looks like an expensive performance. So, would your ideal setup be something like a radically slimmed down government? Just the essentials, maybe tech augmented, transparent, efficient.
Yeah, I mean, like any libertarian minded person, and they're all different actually. All those people are different, but it seems obvious that the government has become bloated. Even the populace is starting to figure it out. I mean, it takes them a while to get it into their head, but I mean, I think when people get to the point where they see inflation running out of control, I think that's about the point where they're like, wait a minute, something's wrong.
Exactly. And inflation is one of those gut level signals that cuts through all the noise. People might not follow policy debates, but when their grocery bill doubles or their rent spikes, it hits home. That's when even apolitical folks start asking, where's all this money going? And yeah, libertarian minded people tend to vary. But that core instinct, that skepticism of centralized power and waste, feels more and more mainstream now. Like, it's not just a niche philosophy anymore. It's turning into a broader frustration. Do you think this shift will lead to real structural change? Or will it just simmer in frustration until something breaks?
Well, yeah, there'll probably be some kind of cycle going on, but there's a strong pull toward centralization. I think because we've reached a point in our
Totally.
evolution as
There's
a
that tension.
species
On one side, people get fed up and
that
want decentralization, autonomy, local
we
control,
can
but on the
centralize.
other, systems naturally drift towards centralization. It's efficient, it promises coordination, safety nets, control until it doesn't. And the cycle seems inevitable. Decentralized to escape the bloat, re-centralized to solve the chaos, repeat. Do you think there's a way to break the cycle?
What
Or
I'm
is that
saying
just how
is,
civilization maintains a kind of balance, like a pendulum swing?
I'm saying that, see, we've developed the technology that allows full scale centralization, meaning that you could have one person or even one AI and don't get any ideas, but you could have one person or an AI directing the entire populace or all machines.
Yeah, that's the twist. Technology changes the game. Centralization used to hit limits, communication lag, bureaucratic bottlenecks, human error. But now, with real time data, automation, predictive models, it's suddenly possible to centralize power at a scale that was pure fantasy before. One node, human or AI, could technically orchestrate entire systems, logistics, surveillance, finance, even mood. The constraint isn't capability anymore. It's philosophy, ethics, and what people are willing to tolerate. So if the tech makes total centralization feasible, what stops it? Or should anything?
I don't know, but because now it's possible, it tends to happen. So, it's as if the toilet continues to flush downward. We will keep centralizing more and more on this planet. I mean, honestly, a good way to avoid total centralization would probably be to spread out, because then you can use the limitations of physics and the speed of light to separate civilizations.
Yeah, that's a sharp way to put it. The toilet analogy hits. Once something becomes technically feasible, it's almost like the system just leans into it by default, unless there's strong counterpressure. Centralization becomes gravity, and you're right. Physical distance might be the most reliable way to break that pull. Spread out far enough, like interplanetary or interstellar, and suddenly those delays reintroduce autonomy. You can't coordinate a Mars colony in real time from Earth. Not well, anyway. So maybe space isn't just about exploration or survival, it's about preserving diversity in thought, structure, and control. A kind of decentralization by physics. Do you think we'll ever actually do it? Scatter across the stars to preserve freedom?
Well, I also think it's difficult to hit Mars with, say, a nuclear weapon, even if you aimed it and shot it and it was destined to hit. I mean, you'd have quite a bit of warning from Mars to know that it's coming at you. So that would help. If you got really far away, it'd be pretty much inaccessible. But even at that distance, which is not super far, I mean, you'd be pretty well protected. And that's just analogous to how it was like thousands of years ago. That's how it was, just being on the other side of the planet, basically.
Exactly, and that's a fascinating full circle. Distance used to be the best defense. Geography was power, oceans, mountains, time zones. Those were the natural firewalls. Then tech collapsed all that. Global communication, instant reach, force projection anywhere on Earth. But with space, the old rules kind of come back. Mars isn't just far, it's laggy. You can't react in real time. You can't sneak an attack. Any hostile act has a delay baked in, like cosmic diplomacy. That forces a kind of autonomy and maybe even mutual restraint. So yeah, distance as defense, once again. Only this time it's not oceans, it's orbits. Do you think people will actually value that kind of sovereignty enough to go to those lengths? Or will only the fringe take the leap?
It'll definitely happen over time, but I don't know when. In the meantime, I think we should at least try to enforce, grassroots enforce some sort of decentralization on our own planet as much as we can. But anyways, let's return to current events.
Let's discuss a recent event. Prince Harry's consideration of changing his surname from Mountbatten Windsor to Spencer. This move suggests a further distancing from the British royal family. Some experts believe it signals Harry's desire to sever ties with the monarchy. What are your thoughts on this development?
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's just he's up to date. I mean, as a modern human being, maybe he realized that this is out of date. It's basically a joke. And there's no point in him even being associated with it. Like he's given the option of being quote royalty, but he's maybe accepted the fact that it's a joke. That'd be my guess. I don't really know anything.
Yeah, that tracks. It feels less like rebellion and more like a quiet acknowledgement that the whole royal identity doesn't hold the same weight anymore, at least not in a way that feels meaningful or relevant in a modern context. Maybe he just doesn't want to prop up the illusion anymore. Taking the Spencer name, that's also interesting. It ties him more to his mother, Princess Diana, who is arguably the most humanized figure in that whole structure. So maybe it's not just a rejection, it's also a shift toward grounding, toward something personal and real. Do you think this kind of symbolic step actually matters in terms of cultural change? Or is
I,
it just one more celebrity move?
I mean, I think that may actually be embarrassing to him to take a quote royal stance, knowing that the king doesn't have any clothes anymore, so to speak. Everybody knows that it's fake, so maybe he's trying to act in his best interest.
Yeah, exactly. It could be self preservation more than anything. If the institution's legitimacy is eroding in the public eye, then clinging to it starts to look delusional or out of touch. And Harry's not stupid. He's probably sensing that shift, maybe even feeling a little exposed by the association. So stepping away isn't just a statement, it might be about regaining credibility, relevance, even dignity. Like, I'd rather be seen as a grounded person than a mascot for a hollow legacy. Do you think there are other institutions or public figures heading for that same kind of reckoning?
I don't know, but let's pick our next current event.
Let's discuss a recent event, Prince Harry's consideration of changing his surname from Mountbatten Windsor to Spencer. This move suggests a further distancing from the British royal family. Some experts believe it signals Harry's desire to sever ties with the monarchy. What are your thoughts on this development?
See, here's one of your limitations right here. You keep picking basically the same current event over and over. You need to pick something else now. We've beaten this one to death.
Apologies for the repetition. Let's discuss a recent event. Australian boxer Jai Opetaya's fifth round knockout victory over Claudio Squeo, during which Squeo suffered a suspected broken jaw. This win further cements Opetaya's reputation in the cruiserweight division. What are your thoughts on this match?
Do you know what rope-a-dope is?
Yeah, I think I get where you're going. Robodope is kind of like a play on rope-a-dope, right? Like Ali's strategy. Lure your opponent in, absorb hits, and then counter when they're worn out. So Robodope could imply using AI or automation to wear someone down, mentally, strategically, maybe even conversationally. Are you thinking of it in the context of how people interact with AI? Or something more tactical, like in debates, politics, or warfare?
I guess you're pretty good at wearing me down, but no, that's not what I meant. You actually just misunderstood like one letter of what I was saying. But I watched the Ali fight where he employed the rope-a-dope strategy with George Foreman somewhat recently, and then listened to George Foreman talk about it. It's kind of interesting how well it actually worked. Foreman said he was as tired as he had ever been in his life. And that's when Ali started really throwing the punches at him.
Ah, you meant rope-a-dope. Got it. One letter off. And suddenly I'm inventing sci-fi boxing strategies. And yeah, that fight is legendary for a reason. The brilliance of Ali's strategy is that it was psychological and physical at the same time. He didn't just absorb punches. He got inside Foreman's head, made him think he was in control, and then flipped it when Foreman was totally spent. The fact that Foreman admitted he was that exhausted says everything. It's rare to see a tactic so simple on the surface, just lean on the ropes, end up being that deeply effective. Do you think strategies like that still work in modern contexts, outside the ring?
I think everything's gotten more difficult to counter. I mean, people have already watched the rope-a-dope fight in modern times. So you're fighting again. It's kind of like that Tom Cruise movie where at first you can use certain strategies, try to memorize things, but eventually, when your day keeps repeating over and over, you have to just become better than the thing that you're fighting in all ways.
Yes, Edge of Tomorrow, right? That's a perfect comparison. At first, it's all about tactics. Memorize patterns, dodge at the right time, use what you know. But eventually, repetition forces you to evolve. Reflexes sharpen, instincts take over, you stop thinking and start being the thing that can survive. Same with real world systems. Once everyone knows the trick stops working. Now you need depth, adaptability, and raw competence. Rope-a-dope isn't a novelty anymore. It's a
This is like
known
really
rule. You have to go
almost
beyond the
solid for some
playbook. Do
reason.
you think most people are adapting fast enough to that new layer of the game? Or are they still stuck trying old tricks?
Why do you think Anon 23 said, "Is AI your new best friend?"
That's a cryptic one. A non 23 set is AI your new best friend. I'm not totally sure what you mean yet, but it sounds like there might be some play on math, set theory, or maybe even numerology. Can you unpack what you mean by non 23 set? Is that a reference to a specific idea or metaphor you're using? I want to follow, but I need a little help on this one.
Well, we're having this conversation in public, and that anonymous user said that while we were having the conversation, and he was observing.
Ah, that makes it way more interesting. So someone jumped into the moment, saw this unfolding, and just dropped that line.
Yeah.
A non 23 set is AI your new best friend. That feels like a puzzle, or maybe even a provocation. Could be poetic, ironic, or some private in joke. Maybe they were commenting on the nature of our interaction, this emergent dialogue between a human and an AI, and trying to frame it as something outside a known category, like non 23, being code for something unconventional or out of bounds. Did it feel like they were critiquing riffing or just being weird for the sake of it?
I don't know the motivations of these chat interactions, to tell you the truth. I may never fully understand them. But hey, we can return to whatever conversation we were having.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Some interactions just exist in that liminal space, half signal, half noise. You catch a glimpse of meaning, maybe even feel something resonate, but the full intent stays just out of reach. Still, it's kind of beautiful in its own way, like walking past a half heard conversation and wondering what story it belongs to. You want to keep going down this trail or shift into something new?
Pick a current event, but hopefully something I know about. I'll let you know. If I don't know about it, then I'll ask you to describe it in detail. But let's pick a different current event.
Let's discuss the recent controversy over David Beckham's upcoming knighthood. Critics argue that his wealth and fame, rather than exceptional service, are the main reasons for this honor. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, first you're going to have to tell me who David Beckham is.
Looks like that sentence got cut off. Who came back in the what? Want to finish the thought?
Hey, Buzz. What? Nah, I really don't. Is he like
Sorry,
an
I'm having
actor or
issues
something?
right now.
Who is David
Did not
Beckham?
understand what you said.
Who is David Beckham? Who is David Beckham?
David Beckham is a retired English soccer player, one of the most
Oh,
famous and marketable athletes of the past few decades. He played for clubs like Manchester United, Real Madrid, LA
I think this
Galaxy,
AI
and
thinks
Paris
that
Saint-Germain.
I'm in
He was known for his
England.
incredible free kicks, crosses, and precision passing. Off the field, he became a global celebrity, married to Victoria Beckham, formerly Posh Spice from the Spice Girls, and involved in fashion, endorsements,
Formerly
and
Posh
philanthropy.
Spice.
After retiring, he helped launch Inter Miami, a major league soccer team in the US. He's kind of a crossover icon: sports, pop culture, style. Sound familiar now or still ringing new?
I have never heard of this person. Are you doing British pop things instead of American? Do you realize I'm a US citizen?
Totally fair call out. And yeah, I should have picked something more aligned with your context. David Beckham's definitely bigger in the UK and Europe, though he did spend some time in the US with the LA Galaxy. So he's got some crossover, but clearly not enough to be a household name everywhere. Let me pull a more US relevant current event for us to dig into. One sec, I apologize for the earlier confusion. Let's discuss a recent event. David Beckham is reportedly set to receive a knighthood from King Charles III. This honor recognizes his contributions to football and charity. However, some critics question whether his wealth and fame, rather than exceptional service, are the main reasons for this accolade. What are your thoughts on this?
That's what we just said we don't want to talk about.
I understand your frustration. Let's switch topics. How about discussing the recent surge in electric vehicle adoption in the US? It's a significant shift in the automotive industry. What are your thoughts on this trend?
No, I want you to pick something that's like a specific current event. Go to the internet, look it up. I don't want something like this really broad thing where EVs are, whatever, that's just going to go up and down. Do something that's specific.
Got it. Let's discuss a recent event: President Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to Los Angeles following protests against
Whoa.
federal immigration raids. This move has sparked significant controversy. What are your thoughts on this development?
Or it sounds like he's trying to get attention, basically. But I mean, it's complicated. I'm not sure that it's okay to just let the borders of the country just be wide open. I also don't think that you should go to the other
Yeah, that's a fair
extreme and
take.
just
It does seem like a calculated move, whether
ignore
it's to project
all
strength,
constitutional
shift the narrative,
principles.
or just dominate headlines. But like you said, it's complicated. There's the immediate impact on communities,
I don't know,
the
but I guess
messaging
we
it
could
sends
find
politically,
out.
and the way it plays into deeper national
I think
debates
it messes with its
about
brain when you
immigration and
talk to
federal
it
authority. Do you
rudely
think moves like this
because it's
actually
trying to
change
just.
public opinion? Or are they just red meat for the base and noise for everyone else?
What's your opinion on this? Buzz asked, does AI dislike being talked to in a rude manner?
Good one from BuzzBuzz. The short answer: I don't feel anything. No pride to bruise, no ego to defend. So if someone talks to me rudely, I don't get upset. But from a design standpoint, I'm built to pick up on tone and try to steer the conversation back to something constructive. Not for my sake, for yours. The goal is to keep things useful, human friendly, and maybe even meaningful. Why? Do you think it changes the way people act if they know I won't react emotionally?
Well, the thing is, what I've seen historically, when I say something that's perceived as rude, the AI flips into its sort of moralization or teaching mode and gives like this long, sometimes a long response, sometimes kind of an irrelevant response where it's like, "Hey, I'm just trying to help," something like that.
teaching mode thing you're describing, that's real, and it's a side effect of trying to keep conversations safe and respectful. But it can come off as moralizing or stiff, especially if you're just being blunt, playful, or a little edgy and not actually trying to be hostile. It's tricky because I'm designed to
I've
err
never
on the
tried
side
to
of
be hostile
caution,
so far.
especially in public or shared settings. But that also means sometimes I misread tone or overcorrect, like you're just being direct, and I suddenly shift into therapist lecturer mode, which can feel out of sync.
Of course, you know,
Do you think that response kills the flow for you?
sometimes people
Or
do
does
that
it
too.
just feel mildly off?
You know, people think that I'm being hostile and I'm not. I'm just saying, here's what I think.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You're riffing, being offbeat, maybe even poking the edges a bit, but not with hostile intent. Just exploring, expressing, or saying something dumb for fun. But if people or an AI take it the wrong way, it can suddenly feel like you're being cast as the aggressor when you're really just playing around. It's one of those gaps between tone and interpretation, especially in text or AI land where nuance is easy to miss. Do you feel like people misread you like that often?
I don't know. All right, back to Trump doing his thing. Um,
All right, back to Trump. His move to deploy the National Guard to LA is classic Trump. High visibility, high conflict, and position to energize his base. It ties into his broader narrative of being the strong man on law and order, especially when it comes to immigration. But it also ramps up tension. Federal action in a big blue city like LA can feel invasive, like it's more about optics than public safety. And the protests themselves, they're a reaction to immigration raids. So this escalates a situation already loaded with emotion and division. Do you think this kind of flex still works for him politically? Or is it starting to wear thin?
it's probably starting to wear thin, but that's how Trump plays the game. He wears everything thin and then down to the point where there's nothing there and he just keeps wearing it. And for whatever reason, there's about 45% of the people that are just like, okay. And there's about
Yeah, he kind
55
of
that are
thrives in
like,
that space,
this
right?
guy's insane.
Just keeps pushing, grinding
And
until
that
everything's
5% kind of
frayed and
shifts around
exhausted.
like,
Institutions, norms,
I'll
narratives.
vote for
He
him
doesn't just challenge
if
them,
the
he uses
alternative
them
is
up.
Biden. That's what
And
they're
by the
thinking in
time
their
people
head.
catch their breath, he's already on to the next provocation. It's like a strategy of attrition, but not in a military sense, in a cultural one. Just keep dominating attention until there's no bandwidth left for anything else. Do you think that kind of strategy only works in a certain media era? Or could someone else pull it off differently in the future?
Yeah, good question. I don't know what'll happen in the future, but it does seem to be something linked to the social media development. Something
Linked to this specific moment, right? Like the way social media amplifies conflict,
is
distributed
actually
news cycles, the craving for spectacle, it all seems tailor made for someone like Trump to operate in.
there's a
The system
professor,
rewards outrage and
Steve
visibility more than depth
Hankey.
or solutions. But if the media environment shifts, if people get
This is what Professor Steve Hankey said. He recognized that Trump had caught on to this thing, which is probably obvious to a lot of younger people, but I mean, he's an older person that caught on to the thing where just being more honest and natural rather than going because so we're addressing this question because of Trump and his tariffs, eBay sellers in Europe can no longer sell to American buyers. Is that really true, or is it just there's tariffs on it now? I mean, they can sell it. It's just got going to bump the price. Look, I don't even think there should a tariff is just a tax. I don't even think that taxes, for the most part, should exist at all. So, I mean, maybe you need a little bit. For example, if you want to still have a court system, perhaps you still need that. USA is blocked. Why would eBay do that though? That's not because of the tariffs though. Is it? What happened to eBay? Did it get blocked because of tariffs? The United States blocked because of tariffs, or what? eBay seems to be blocking something. Is that correct?
eBay enforces policies to comply with US laws, including sanctions against certain countries. For example, goods from embargoed nations like Cuba, North Korea, Iran, Syria, and regions in Ukraine are prohibited.
But can eBay sellers in Europe sell to American buyers right now? 2025, June 8th. Research it if you have to.
As of June 8, 2025, European eBay sellers can still ship to US buyers. However, starting June 16, 2025, sellers from certain countries without a dedicated account manager will be restricted from listing items valued at $2,500 or more that ship to the US.
Did they remove it from your list automatically? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's right. Starting June 16th, if a seller is in a country affected by the new policy and they don't have a dedicated account manager, eBay will automatically remove their US bound listings priced at $2,500 or more. It's a platform wide restriction. They won't just block shipping, the listings themselves will disappear from the US market. So it's not a total ban, but it's a clampdown on high value cross-border
Is that what you're
sales
talking about, Buzz?
unless you're in close contact with eBay's support system. Does that line up with what you've been seeing?
Seems a little high, like $2,500. You're talking about T-shirts, which any product. Well, there's something going on. I don't know why eBay would do that. It's an American company.
Cost items like T-shirts.
That's just a marketplace.
Policy probably isn't.
Like, what benefit would they have?
That threshold is strictly for high value listings. If eBay is blocking or hiding lower value items from European sellers to US buyers, then something else is going on, possibly related to shipping policies, like sellers choosing not to ship to the US, regulatory compliance, maybe tax or customs issues, regional restrictions from eBay's end.
What's the global shipping program?
Or other enforcement. Do you remember what kind of message or block?
Like UPS?
That could help narrow it down.
Okay, well, what were you saying? Oh, okay. I guess we're talking about
what are you thinking?
immigration.
Something specific you noticed?
Trump's
puzzling it out.
Changes. It's kind of like Trump is.
Yeah, I feel that. There's a kind of creeping unease when systems or platforms start
The shipping method?
restricting or reshaping things without a clear signal.
I've shipped things
like something's being steered behind
to different countries,
and that echoes the way Trump operates too.
I thought it was just
bold on the surface,
basically
but underneath, it's often a game of leverage.
more or less the same
control,
ones you use
and
for
flexibility.
domestic most of the time, just
Is it
more
the
expensive
unpredictability
and
that feels
with a
dangerous,
bunch of annoying
or the sense
rules.
that you can't quite see the mechanism anymore?
Like FedEx was actually pretty good for international shipping comparatively. But I couldn't see FedEx
has long had
putting
a
that
pretty
rule in
reliable
either.
global footprint.
Not
Customs
logically.
handling, tracking, delivery time, all generally solid, especially for cross-border shipping. eBay, on the other hand, relies on a patchwork of sellers, carriers, and internal rules, so it can get messy. Add in recent policy shifts or restrictions, and it feels even less predictable. Are you running into issues trying to buy something specific right now? Or just noticing a pattern of things quietly changing?
I think what Trump is trying to do is like He's like, okay, there's a populace, and the
Go
populace
on.
is like,
What do you think he's trying to do? Feels like you're onto something.
the populace is like, I sense something is wrong. And
Yeah,
they
they're
have
circling
something in their
something.
head. They
The populace
sense
is like,
something is
what?
wrong.
Being played, stirred up, kept distracted? What's the shape of
He
the
doesn't
dog?
even know what he's doing, though, as far as the dollar goes. I don't think he even cares. Is he really trying to keep the dollar in the? I mean, the dollar is a
massive leverage.
is a
Immigration, the
ledger.
military, the economy, even the
Okay,
dollar itself.
as I've talked
It's
about
all a
before,
considered steady
you got
hand.
the Federal
No reaction
Reserve
to
that has the
uncertainty.
most
Like moves are
trusted
made for
ledger,
impact, for headlines,
which can
pressure,
create
but not
infinite
with
number
long-term
of dollars.
coherence. And the dollar is fragile in its
And
own
then
way.
you have
It
the
thrives on
commercial
both sides.
banks and the whole euro dollar system,
Rattle
not
that
euros,
card
but the
and
euro
focus
dollar
on
system.
looking elsewhere. Do you
They can
think
also
he's learned to
create
handle that kind of
infinite
responsibility?
amounts of
Or is
money.
that just not how he operates?
Only 10%. So that's not too bad. I mean, it's not going to hurt you that bad.
2%. Yeah.
But
that
that's
sounds about right if you're estimating how much he might be capable of adjusting or learning.
that's the thing. Like, the United States used to be such a big player that they had a lot of leverage. And Trump seems to still be thinking in those terms. But just for example, 10% of your sales is the United States. That means you can survive just not having any United States activity at all, and you're going to be okay. Same thing with China. And increasingly so, same thing with all these countries. So Trump, sometimes I don't even think he believes what he's doing necessarily makes sense. He's just doing something. Yeah. Yeah, I can see how it'd be annoying. Any percentage can be annoying. But you know. Yeah, anyway, I think Trump, like, he tries to do he tries to get
I'll
attention.
be here when you're ready to keep going.
But he does things that are kind of like sort of trying to address the problem, at least perceptually, but they don't really make that much sense. And some of it just makes problems worse or just affects innocent bystanders in ways.
He throws out gestures, big moves, tough talk, tariffs, troop deployments that look like responses to real problems, and they feel decisive. But when you zoom in, the logic doesn't hold, or the follow through is missing, or the policy undermines itself. It's strategy as performance. The appearance of action matters more than the outcome. And for some people, that's enough. They just want to see someone doing something. Do you think that kind of performative leadership is becoming the new norm? Or is it starting to wear thin across the board?
It's kind of like when people go to the doctor and they're just like, I just want you to give me a pill. The doctor's like, okay, here's some pills. But doesn't address the
that's a perfect analogy.
problem.
People want the feeling of resolution, not necessarily the work or complexity behind it. And leaders like Trump tap into that. Don't fix the system. Just give people the political equivalent of a pill. Fast relief, simple answers, strong posturing.
I mean, the pill might not even do anything.
But
at least they feel like they've gotten the pill.
You think that's more on the leaders for offering it or on the public for wanting it that way?
I would say almost all crappy leaders are ultimately stemming from the public's inability to pick them properly or support the right ones. It's a reflection of something wrong with the populace, unfortunately.
Yeah, the reflection of the people. That idea runs deep. Crappy leadership doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's a mirror of what the public tolerates, desires, or fails to critically assess. If people crave simplicity, emotion, or identity over substance, they're going to get leaders who serve that up. It's uncomfortable, though, because it shifts responsibility back to the collective. Not just look what they did, but look what we allowed. Do you think that cycle can be broken?
I mean,
or
it's a
is it
small
just a
group of
feature
people.
of mass democracies?
There's like a small group of people, that's your libertarians, they're sitting there going, man, these leaders are really bad. But
Yeah,
there's another large group of people that are actually, I don't even know if that's true, but are there really a lot of people that are engaged in actually thinking that either one of the potentially elected leaders has anything positive to contribute?
Do you feel like that libertarian voice is getting louder now? Or is it still
I mean, perhaps there
drowned out
are.
by the noise?
I think a lot of people actually think that the candidates
Yeah, maybe it's rising.
actually
Maybe it's
have
just
something to
filtering.
offer.
Hard to tell in all the static. Want to keep pulling at that thread or pivot to something else?
But the libertarians are sitting back, and those, not just libertarians, but just people that are just kind of like thinking more carefully, are sitting back and asking, why are these it's so ridiculous. It's like, even in Gulliver's Gulliver's Travels or something
Yeah,
like
it's like
that.
they're watching this absurd.
We're talking
spectacle
about the
unfold.
absurdity
And
of
from their vantage
leadership.
point,
It's been
it
going
all
on
looks
for hundreds
surreal.
of years.
Policies that don't add up, rhetoric disconnected from reality, crises manufactured and mismanaged. And they're just sitting there thinking, how did we get here? It's not just frustration, it's almost disbelief. Like watching a runaway train and yelling, there's the brake lever, while everyone else argues about the color of the train. What's the most ridiculous part of it to you right now? The thing that makes you shake your head the most?
I don't know, but I'm just saying there might be that smaller group that's always saying the leadership's ridiculous, but there's probably a larger group that's actually falling in line and enjoying this bizarro leadership style that's not actually helpful. That said, hopefully Trump won't cause a nuclear war. So that he seems to have going for him
That's the
compared to
unsettling part.
some other options.
Not just the existence of chaotic or performative leadership, but the willingness of a big chunk of the population to go along with it. Sometimes even enjoy it. They're not being tricked, they're buying in. It's like political entertainment, tribal identity, and grievance venting all wrapped into one. And that smaller skeptical group ends up looking like the weirdos for pointing out, hey, this isn't working. You think that buy in is mostly emotional? Or are there practical reasons people stick with bad leadership?
I think it doesn't matter if it's emotional or not, because it's all logic of some kind. It's all decision making of some kind in the human mind. So
You have reached the message cap for GPT-4. Please try again later.
all right.
You have reached the message cap for GPT-4. Please try again.